At some point, you stopped feeling close to people. Not because something dramatic happened, not because they hurt you badly, but because something slowly faded. You're surrounded by people, conversations, messages, noise, yet deep down you feel disconnected. And the confusing part is this: you don't always feel lonely. You just feel separate. Psychology explains this experience more clearly than most people realize. Feeling disconnected from everyone is rarely about others. It's almost always about what's happening inside your mind. Disconnection often begins as a protective response. When emotional needs go unmet for a long time, the brain adapts. Not by demanding more, but by expecting less. You stop reaching out. You stop explaining yourself. You stop expecting people to understand. It's not because you don't care, but because caring without feeling seen is exhausting. Psychologists call this emotional withdrawal. It's not the same as isolation. Isolation is physical. Withdrawal is emotional. You can be present in rooms, active in conversations, even smiling, and still feel like you're watching life from the outside. One of the biggest reasons this happens is emotional mismatch. You think deeply, you feel intensely, you notice subtleties others ignore. But most daily interactions operate on the surface. Small talk, quick reactions, distractions. Over time, this gap creates quiet frustration. You don't feel understood, not because people don't care, but because they don't speak the same emotional language. So your mind slowly disengages. Another major reason for disconnection is unresolved disappointment. When people repeatedly fail to meet expectations, even small ones, the brain learns to stop hoping. Not consciously, automatically, you begin lowering emotional investment to avoid future letdowns. This creates emotional distance that feels safe, but empty. You're not cold, tired of being disappointed. Disconnection is also deeply linked to self-silencing. At some point, you learn that expressing certain thoughts or emotions made things worse instead of better. Maybe you were misunderstood, dismissed, ignored, or made to feel too much. So you adapted. You filtered yourself. And the more you filter yourself, the more disconnected you feel, even from people you care about. Because connection requires authenticity. Authenticity requires safety. Another psychological factor is identity drift. As you grow, your values change. Your priorities shift. Your tolerance for superficiality decreases. But the people around you may stay the same. This creates a quiet internal conflict. You don't hate anyone, you just don't feel aligned anymore. And misalignment feels like disconnection. The brain also plays a role through emotional fatigue. Constant stimulation, constant comparison, constant information overloads the nervous system. When the mind is overwhelmed, it conserves energy by reducing emotional engagement. This is why emotionally intelligent or introspective people often feel disconnected. They process more and feel drained faster. So their mind pulls back to protect itself. Disconnection can also come from unprocessed grief. Not just loss of people, but loss of expectations, versions of yourself, or imagined futures. When grief isn't acknowledged, it turns into numbness. And numbness feels like disconnection. Another uncomfortable truth is this: sometimes disconnection comes from outgrowing environments. When you evolve internally, but remain externally static, the mind feels trapped. This doesn't mean you're better than others. It means you're different now. And difference without understanding feels isolating. Social media intensifies this feeling. You see constant connection, but feel none of it deeply. The brain starts associating connection with performance instead of presence. This creates emotional dissonance. You appear connected, but feel detached. Over time, the brain stops trying. Disconnection also happens when you suppress needs for too long. The need to be heard, the need to be appreciated, the need to feel chosen. Ignored needs don't disappear, they turn inward. And when the mind turns inward for too long, it disconnects outward. Here's the part most people misunderstand. Disconnection is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It's a sign that something important inside you has been ignored. Your mind isn't broken. It's signaling misalignment. The danger is staying disconnected for too long, because when emotional distance becomes habitual, it starts feeling normal. You stop trying, you stop opening up. You convince yourself you don't need anyone. But humans are wired for connection, just not shallow connection. The solution, ESA and T. forcing yourself to socialize more. It's restoring emotional honesty. Disconnection eases when you allow yourself to want depth again. When you stop minimizing your needs. When you stop pretending you're fine with less. You don't need many people. You need resonance. One real conversation is more powerful than 100 empty interactions. Disconnection fades when the mind feels safe to be seen again. Not everywhere, not by everyone, just somewhere.